Hello everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to talk about MateCat, what it is, what it can do, and how you can make extra money with it by being faster and more efficient. So, whether you are a beginner who's just starting off in the translation industry, or a veteran, or an LSP who's looking for more CAT tools to expand their business, this is the right place for you to start. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to take a look at what MateCat is and what you can do with it. We're going to take a look at how you can translate with MateCat the fast way. Then we're going to check out the advanced options that MateCat provides you. And as I've said at the beginning, we're going to see how you can make extra money with it. So let's jump right in. What you need to do in order to use MateCat is simply open a Chrome tab or a Safari tab in case you are a Mac user, and then simply type www.matecat.com. And this is what you will find in front of you. Now, what is MateCat? MateCat is a fully professional CAT tool. A CAT tool is, of course, the translation work environment. What are the main advantages of using MateCat? Now, MateCat, first of all, is completely free. This means that when you go to www.matecat.com, you will be able to use the full potential of the tool without paying a dime. Furthermore, it's open source and is completely customizable with your internal translation systems in case you are an LSP. And it provides more matches than any other CAT tool. What do I mean by that? Well, let's have a look. So let's assume that I'm a translator and that I want to translate a simple file very quickly without too much effort. So what am I going to do in this case? First of all, I'm going to give my project a name. So let's say that for this demo, I will want to call my project Webinar Demo. Then I'm going to select my language combination right here, French into Italian. Let's say that I'm happy with that. And then I'm going to check out my file. So I want to click on this button right here, then select my file. I can also drag and drop it on the interface if I like, and then MateCat will automatically import it. All I need to do at this point is click on Analyze, and I'm going to be prompted to the analysis page. Now, what MateCat does in this case is it counts the words in the document, and then it applies translation matches and machine translation. We're going to talk a bit more about this in a few seconds. So all I want to do now is click on Translate, then Open Job if I want to do the project myself, and then prompt it to the translation editor. Now, this is where I want to work and where I'm going to modify my file. So let's take a look. I have ceci et en fichier d'essai. So I'm going to basically translate this file very quickly. All I need to do is check if the translation right here is okay or if I need to do any modifications. Now, I can see that this is machine translation. I have a confirmation right here, yes. So I'm going to see if this is okay for me. I think it's pretty good. So I'm going to just confirm this segment. Then let's see this other translation. Now here I want to make a modification. So I will confirm also this segment, and so on. I will proceed until my translation is complete. Now I can see that this button at the top of the screen turns blue with a big download translation writing. So what I want to do now is click on it, and in a few seconds, here it is. I get my file that is perfectly translated. So I'm going to open it, and let's see how it looks like. Okay, this is my file. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward and it's very simple to translate the fast way with MateCat. But of course, there is much more to it than that. So let's go back to the home page and see what MateCat can offer you in full. So on this page, of course, is where you can create your project. Now, there are many file formats out there in the market and they all need to be translated. So the question is, can MateCat handle them? The answer is most likely yes, because MateCat supports 71 file formats that are listed right here. You can see that the full Office suite is completely supported. Web formats such as YML, HTML, or even images like PDF, JPEG, or desktop publishing and localization files are supported. So pretty much anything that you have, MateCat will be able to handle it. Then, here in the interface, I can also decide to select the subject, which is especially useful if I'm going to outsource my project, but we'll talk a bit more about that in a few moments. And then, of course, what I want to use is setting up my translation memory. Now, if you remember, at the beginning, we've mentioned the fact that MateCat provides more matches than any other CAT tool, which of course makes you faster, more efficient. But how does it do that? So MateCat is linked to my memory, which is a translation memory server. Now, of course, MateCat supports private translation memories, so if you have any confidential content, what you need to do is to generate a private translation memory so your content stays secure. But on top of that, my memory also provides a public translation memory, which is the largest public translation memory in the world, composed of more than 80 billion contributions that are both obtained by web crawling and aligning content throughout the web, but also by hosting professional contributions voluntarily given by professional translators in the world. So whether you are a beginner, so you don't have any translation memory at all in your portfolio, or even if you are a veteran or an LSP with tons of translation memories in your possession, MateCat still provides you with a professional and reliable source of content to be reused, and this completely for free. How does this work? From this interface, by default, I will benefit from the public translation memory. But of course, if I want to keep my translation confidential, all I need to do is click on this drop-down menu right here and select one of my private translation memories. Let's say that I don't have one. I can simply click on Create Resource and then prompt it to the Settings panel, where I can actually do a bit more in-depth management of my resources. How does this work? You can see the default settings, so my memory is enabled. But let's say that I want to create a private translation memory from scratch. So I click on New Resource right here. I give my translation memory a name, and then I click on Confirm, and this generates this password right here. Now you can think of it as a vault, which basically is meant to store any content that you have in any language combination that you have for any subject, and it will be only accessible by you through this password. So unless you share it with anybody else, no one will be able to see your content. As I mentioned, you can store any kinds of content in this translation memory, regardless of combination and subject. This means that this simplifies a lot the translation memory management. Now, the old days where you had to keep different folders for different subjects of translation or for your different clients, these days are gone because you can basically store everything inside this single vault, and MateCat will smartly suggest the best match for you. You can, of course, add more than one translation memory by simply clicking on the inactive resources available to you, and then you can, of course, decide whether you want to update your translation memories. So I simply need to tick these boxes right here. Or if you don't want to look them up. So for example, you can decide not to look up the public translation memory. You can decide not to look up from a private translation memory of yours. You can decide, of course, and it's entirely up to you. You can also decide, in case you have some pretty rich translation memories, to pre-translate 100% matches directly into the editor. This is one of the ways that MateCat provides to grant you more matches than any other cat tool. But what is the next tool available for translation suggestions? It's machine translation. Now, MateCat provides machine translation from Google Translate, DeepL, and Microsoft Translator. Of course, it provides neural machine translation for all supported combinations, which is the state-of-the-art technology. Also, this service is provided entirely for free in MateCat. If you don't want to use it, you simply need to tick on this box. Otherwise, it's enabled by default. There are, of course, also advanced options that you can use. For example, you have dictation available. If you're a fan of speech to text and you want to speak your translation rather than type it, that's the way you can do it. Guest acquisition. Now, this is an especially interesting feature. Now, for some supported languages, basically that you see listed right here, MateCat grants you the ability of automatically placing tags. Now, what are tags? Tags are pieces of information, so let's say bold, italics, images even, that are stored in the form of a small piece of code, an icon, let's say, that appears in the translation editor, that you can easily position in the segment, but also you don't need to do this effort anymore because MateCat will simply apply it automatically for you. The next option, of course, that is available is Lexica. Now, Lexica is a QA checking system that is integrated with MateCat and then can be enabled or disabled for the following supported languages. Now, what does it do? It will basically check for punctuation, numeral mismatches, if there are any links or symbols that are misplaced, and this, of course, automatically. You can also decide if you want to apply different segmentation rules. So, for example, let's say that you translate a lot of patents, you can apply the patent segmentation. Or if you translate a lot of content based on paragraphs, you can apply the paragraph segmentation. Let's go back to the analysis instead, and let's take a closer look at what it provides. So I will go back to my editor, and I will access the analysis page right here. Now, what do I see here? Here I can have a complete overview of the word count in my document. So here I can see the total word count. Here I can see how much would it be leveraged by the default tools available on the market. And here is how much MateCat would leverage it. So as I've said before, the combination of machine translation, public translation memory, and private translation memories contributes to provide more matches than any other cat tool on the market. So I can then go back to the editor at this point if I want to translate the job myself, or, and here is the neat thing, I can decide to outsource my project. What does it mean? Let's say that I am having too much volume to cope with, and I don't want to say no to my client because, of course, today saying no to your clients can mean potentially losing them. So how can I do that? I can decide to use MateCat, not to translate the job myself, but to outsource this job to translated.net, which is the language service provider that developed MateCat. You can see here an instant quote that will basically cover the cost of the raw translation plus a project management fee. Then you can decide to optionally include a revision. And then all you need to do is simply clicking on Order Now to place your order, and translated.net will receive it and process it. Now let's go back to the editor and let's take a look at what you can do here. So you've seen the edit area, so the area where you can actually make additions to your file. And then, of course, there are a few other options that you can use in this page. So first of all, you can, of course, check the Translation Matches tab, which, of course, provides matches from best to worst. In this case, I can see that there was no good enough match for this segment in the public translation memory. That is the only one that I've enabled by default on my project. So MateCat provides automatically machine translation. Then I also have the TM Search tab, which is basically a way for me to look up for content in my translation memory. So let's say, for example, that I want to see how essai has been translated in different contexts. So I will type essai in this box right here, and MateCat will basically search the TMs. Now, if I have private translation memories, it will, of course, look up my translation memories, but in this case, I don't have any. So it will look up for essai in the public translation memory, and I can have a look at how it is translated in different contexts. Then, of course, I have the glossary. Now, MateCat supports also glossaries. How does this work? Glossaries can be uploaded to MateCat in the form of an Excel file that will need to have a source column, so it will basically contain all the entries in the source text, and a target column containing all the related translations, and a third column to optionally store comments and contextual information. How will it look like? Now, I can, of course, upload it straight to my translation memories. So from here, for example, I will open my settings. I will go to translation memory and glossary. I will select a private translation memory of my own. And from here, I have a set of options that I can look out. I can decide to import my private translation memories into the translation memory key. Then I also have the possibility of exporting them and to import glossaries. So I will click here. Then I will select the file. Now I have one right in this particular case, and I'm going to click on confirm in order to upload it. And in a few seconds, MateCat will import it. Now, when I want to see an entry in my editor, all I need to do is check on the source segment to see if there is anything highlighted. Now, let's say that, for example, that I don't have any entries stored in my original glossary file, so I want to add some new ones. So what I can do is, for example, I can type in the boxes right here the content I want to add, and here is how it will look. I will just need to press enter in this case, and a glossary entry will be added in a few seconds to MateCat. And here's how it will look like. It will look like a purple underline under the related entry in the source segment. Then let's take a look at the checks that MateCat provides you with. For example, I see here that there is a green highlight. What does this mean? This is the QA check at work. This is Lexica. So you can see here, for example, that there is a punctuation sign that is not present in the source, and Lexica warns me to pay attention to that. Now, all warnings that are related to the projects, whether they are tag issues, translation conflicts, namely inconsistencies, and Lexica issues, will be displayed right here in this section. And when I click on it, I can take a full look at the details of the issues found. So I see that Lexica spotted one potential QA check issue. And now I can use these bar navigation arrows right here to browse quickly through my content. I also have a search feature that I can call by pressing the usual shortcut Command F or Control F, or by pressing on this magnifying lens. That allows me to do a search in the source, in the target, and to do bulk replacement. Then I can also use the filters if I want to filter out part of the content. So for example, I can filter by segment status or by different conditions such as unlock segments, repetitions, machine translation, and so on. This is what you can do in the translation editor, but of course there is more than that. Let's say that, for example, you are a reviser and you want to use MateCat for your revision projects. Now, all you need to do is get a translated MateCat URL and then press this revise button. And you will be prompted to an interface that is very much similar to the translation interface with a few extra tweaks. In particular, this revise tab. Now, you can use the revise tab to basically evaluate the translation. So you can determine if there are errors or simply enhancement to be made, and you can determine the category, for example. Then all you need to do is, let's say, correct the term and click on approved. And what this is going to do is to generate automatically in real time a quality report that is visible right here at the top. When I click on this, I will basically have an overview of all the issues present in my job. I will take a look at the score and I will be able to make decisions and act on it. If you remember, at the beginning, we have described how MateCat makes you faster and more efficient. But how can you measure that? So if you want to organize your workday, or if you want to find agreements with your client based on your actual productivity, where can you find some data that you can use to make your decisions? It's in the editing log, which is available right here at the bottom right corner of the screen. If I click right here, I will take basically, I can take an overview to all the segments that I've translated. I can see how fast I was in translating them, how much time it took overall to finish the job. And I can also take a look at the post-editing effort, which is basically an indication of how much did I modify my original translation suggestions, whether it is machine translation or a translation match. Now, this is how you can use MateCat to do your translation work, but of course there is much more to it than that. Now, let's assume that you want to track your projects and manage them. So if I click at the bottom right corner of the screen on the Manage button, this is what I will be prompted to. This is basically an overview of all the projects that I have created. Now, from here, I can see a whole set of information, such as ID of the job, language pair, progress that is updated in real time in the form of this bar that is also available in the translation editor. And I can also see the quantity of words that is available for my project. If there are translation memories available, if there are quality issues, who is my assignee? So if I want to use this page as an LSP, I can of course decide to click on in here and assign the job to a specific translator and set their due date. Or I can decide to outsource the translation, if I so desire. And then here you have some information. Now, what do we see right here at the top? Here you can see that I'm the owner of this project, you can see my name, and also you can see that they belong to my personal team. So, what does this mean? Let's assume that I want to work on a particular client with a restricted set of people. So, what I can do is I can create a team. Now, to create a team, I will simply go at the top right here, and I can select Create a New Team. Now, in this particular case, I already have a team of my own, so I'm going to use this one to demonstrate it. Let's say that this project is something that I have created, but in truth it pertains to my specific team, client 1. I'm going to click right here, and the project will be moved to the client 1 team. Now, every other people that is available in this team will be able to see it and take action on it, and I can also decide to change the assignee to other members. So, for example, let me add another colleague of mine. And in this case, I will be able to shift the ownership of the project to a different colleague with a very simple click. And as you can see, if I go back to my personal panel, now in this case, I will not be able to see my original project. Now, let's take a look at what you can do right here more in detail. Here, there is a set of options that are very useful to take control over your project. In particular, how do you tackle rush projects? Let's say that you have a project that is 40K words. You receive it at Friday at 6 p.m. when you're about to close your business for the weekend. And of course, the deadline is on Monday morning. Now, how are you going to do that? You don't want to say no to your client. So what you can do is you can click on this split icon. Now, when you do this, you can decide suddenly to split your job in up to 50 different chunks and assign each single chunk to a different translator, or share it with your colleagues in case you want to do private work. So I click right here, and as you can see, the project was split in two. Now, what is the benefit of this? You can get more people to work on the same file, sharing the same resources, and providing updates to them in real time, and you can track their progress as they go. Now, as you can see, this is especially useful to tackle rush projects that are especially big and that they need collaborative work to be completed. But not only, you can also decide that, for example, you're able to tackle these, in this case, the smaller chunk right here, but you're not able to tackle the other half of the translation. So what you can do is you can decide to simply outsource one part of your project, and Translated.net will take care of you, and you will be able to track the progress in real time, take decisions, and correct them and revise in parallel if you so desire. So it's very flexible, as you can see. Then there is, of course, another set of options, such as, for example, you can access the editing log and quality report from here. You can change the password of the job, and this is especially useful to keep it unique and confidential. What do I mean by that? To share a project with your translators or your colleagues, what you need to do is take this link and basically send it to your translators. Now, this link, as you can see, has a unique password that can basically that identifies that particular link. Now, from the management panel, you can decide to change it, and this will prevent any previous people that you shared the original link with to access that job again. And this, of course, helps in keeping confidentiality. Then you can also download the XLIF in case you need to have an interchangeable format to work offline. And you can download your TMX for that job. And you can also decide to archive it or cancel it. Now, this is a pretty comprehensive overview of what you can do with MateCat. But of course, there are a lot of options and possibilities. And if you have any questions at any time, simply click on Get Support right here, and we'll be very much happy to reply to you. This is it for this webinar. Thank you so very much for attending. And don't forget, MateCat is completely free and open source. All you need to do to start using it is simply go to www.matecat.com on Google Chrome or Safari. And if you have any questions at any time, or if you'd like to know more, or if you want to learn how you can use some tips and tricks to improve your productivity and efficiency at work, simply write an email to info@matecat.com, and we'll be more than happy to assist. Thanks again, and stay tuned for the next series of webinars at MateCat.com.